Well, good morning, Southern Oregon. Alice Lema and Pete Belcastro here. Welcome you to the Real Estate Show, the only valley-wide real estate show talking about all things real estate here in Southern Oregon. Pete Belcastro and I are brokers here in Southern Oregon. And Pete, what a week we have had. Isn't it something?
Well, last week I told you there was the weekly stats that we do showed a dip. Remember, like the closed sales dropped by half from the week before. It was like 97. They dropped to 58. And you go, oh my goodness, what happened? That was across all three counties. And you look, well, what in the world happened? Is it a blip or is it a trend? Right? I mean, that's what you think when you look at this stuff. Because it really did drop. It was just seemed like everything just kind of slowed down last week. And so I was really nervous when I started to go through them this week. Look at this. It went right back up again, Alice. I mean, it was just crazy. We went right back up to about 100 closed sales in Jackson County. Klamath County was way up. Josephine County was way up in terms of closed sales. And even pending sales went back up. So, there's still a lot of activity. The issue that we're going to talk about today in our show, which is so important, is the inventory and where are the areas that it's really, really acute, where is it not so much, and how do buyers and sellers really maneuver through this kind of low inventory, but such a great opportunity to buy.
Well, and that's going to be the trick, and it's going to be a lot of conversation on our Market Watch show today. Pete Belcastro and I are going to be talking about what's going on in Southern Oregon with the low inventory, and there's a lot of weird things happening with the lenders. We have lenders doing unexpectedly not doing appraisals, and we're not being told ahead of time that that's even an option. And then we have some lenders that are doing repeated employment verifications almost as often as every 7 to 10 days. And they're not telling the buyers or the agents ahead of time that their borrowers or the people doing the purchase are going to be checked and double checked to make sure they're not furloughed.
Wow. Well, there's another thing you're talking about that. I've noticed on some of the TV things that you see from these online lenders, no income verification. And that, Alice, to me, is the worst thing that can draw down and have a huge negative effect on the market if that's the case. So,
well, I don't believe those are true, though. I think those are bait and switch ads. I think consumers better be really, really careful.
I hope you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I probably are. But still, just to have them say that,
yeah. But we've got a break coming up. Pete Belcastro and I are going to be talking more about the Southern Oregon market through the corona, what a great time it is to sell, what a great time it is to buy. But please stay tuned for a message from our sponsors. Well, welcome back, Southern Oregon, to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema here with my friend and co-worker, Pete Belcastro. We're both brokers at John L. Scott, Southern Oregon. And we are also going to be on YouTube. So you can go to realestateshoworegon.com. You can catch this episode. There's also going to be a repeat episode of the show tomorrow at 6 p.m. on this same station, KCMX News Radio 880. In the meantime, Pete and I are having a lively discussion about what the heck is going on in the housing market. And here in Southern Oregon, it's really quite dramatic, isn't it, Pete?
Well, it is. And what's so funny about it is that it seems it just changes weekly. It may change daily, actually, when you think about it. But certainly we compile stats weekly, and it's a changing market in all three of our southern counties, literally every week, it seems. And I think that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. A lot of activity going on. What do you see? I mean, I've been really busy, as a lot of agents are, with a little of everything, Alice. It's local people, moving. It's people from out of the area coming in, as we know. It's just a little bit of everything, it seems like, is going on, and it all puts you put it into the melting pot. And you have a really crazy market on right now that has a lot of activity, but also has a lot of problems. I don't want to ever say it's all rosy, because it is not. There's a lot
It
of
is so far from rosy. Oh my goodness. It is really hard out there, but great opportunities only come around once or twice in a lifetime, and it's going to be crunchy. So, as my mother likes to say, put your roller skates on and hold on to your hat. I don't know what those two have to do with each other, but that's the kind of market we're in. And if you're selling or you've thought about selling, I cannot tell you what a great opportunity this is, because the buyers are very orderly. They're very organized. They know what they want. They're writing amazing offers, amazing. And there's no messing around. So it's not like it was before, where the market was trying to level off and the buyers and the sellers were a little more on equal footing. Right now, you can get the most amazing buyer. You can get multiple offers, and then you can jump to the next stage of your life, whether that's to buy another home, upsize, downsize, get out of Dodge altogether. Either way is fine, but you really do have to brace yourself. A lot of the lenders and title people are still working from home. I can't tell you, the service people that do our repairs, a lot of them are either not in business or they've moved to other places. So we don't have as many handy humans to help us with repairs. We're having trouble getting bids from people in a timely manner. It's just very wild out there, but it's worth putting up with. I'm telling you, it's worth putting up with.
Well, just listening to you say all of that, whew, I've had to slow down there.
I know you'll feel overwhelmed, but you got to stick with it.
Well, what people are hearing is a top agent like you, and the things that you are experiencing across the board as well. And just listen to all the things you said that are going on, that you have. I mean, it's true. And how we deal with those. Look, we've been doing this for a long time. You and I we've never been able to say at the same time in the same sentence until this time, this current time, that is such an opportunity for both buyers and sellers in the same market. Usually,
it never happens. That never happens.
Usually, yeah. Usually it's a seller's market, which we've seen in our valley for quite some time.
Or a buyer's market, like it was during the crash.
Or it's going to be a buyer's market, but never have we seen them both with such a unique opportunity for both buyer and seller to come together. The issue can tell me how you're dealing with this when you do it, because there's such a shortage or a reduction of the number of listings. So how are you dealing with that, Alice, when you talk to your buyers about the listing problem? Let's start there, see where we go.
Well, so my buyers and all buyers that are out there right now are all doing the same strategies, and there's 4 or 5 ways to compete, but you actually have to look at houses either over your price point because you have extra money, because I always talk about the fictional Aunt Betty and Uncle Fred. You got to have more money so that you can come in higher, or you're going to look at prices that are a little bit under your approval so that you can overbid. You're also going to have to pay your own closing costs, or at least half your own closing costs. But I do not want buyers to be discouraged. Even if you're in that $200,000 range, you can still get a house. You can still win the bid. I had a couple of kids that won the bid on a little cottage in Central Point. They won over 6 other offers.
Wow.
Part of it was because they did not have a house to sell. So, do not give up. Even if you have to fight and it feels like you're getting put through a hurricane or a washing machine, you do have the possibility of winning the bid. You cannot give up.
Well, I like your idea there a lot, Alice, in terms of, say you come in a little bit over and you bid over the price, and then you can take some closing costs maybe out of that also. So you're right. That's a good strategy. And the other strategy, I didn't think of that one too much, but you're right. On the lower end, if you go lower, then you can have room maybe to go higher if you get into a competitive situation there. So those are 2 good strategies, I think, to use, especially in the markets in the areas that are really low on inventory, right? I guess. I just wanted to show people.
Well, everybody's low on inventory. It's like, what market is not low on inventory right now? And when we say markets, we're talking about price ranges of prices.
Yeah, let me just show you this. This is the old people who watch us. We have the graph which shows, how listings come up, the great curve. You see it year after year, it goes up and then it goes down. If you'll notice down here, though, it goes down, and this is 2020. So you see, Alice, where the curves go up this time of the year, you know, it tops off in August, comes back down. Look where we are. Look where it went. And now we're coming back up on the listing side. But
we're coming back up. What did I say?
But there's a but. But we are still lower than we have been in the entire years of this particular survey. We're still very low, and we just made it up there's just over 500 residential listings right now in Jackson County, and that is really the biggest issue probably of all, is that there's not a lot of choice for a lot of buyers. There's not a lot of choice for as many buyers that are out there right now.
That's true, but there's still some really good houses, and a lot of them do finance. A lot of them are perfectly adequate for what people are wanting and needing. But again, a huge plea going out to anybody who's ever thought about selling. If you're a landlord and you're just sick of being a landlord, or you want to redo your portfolio, this is a great time to put some of your properties on the market. Just a reminder, if you have tenants in there right now, the new buyer has to take those tenants if they're an investor. If it's going to be owner occupied, the new buyer is going to live there, then the tenant will get a 90-day notice. Possibly a 30, but I would plan on 90. Even if they only are entitled to a 30-day, please give them a 90. A lot of the buyers will put up with that. A lot of the lenders are on board with that now. Because of the COVID, it's hard for renters to find another place to live.
And I'm doing that exactly with a client of mine, where we were purchasing, the tenants were there, and the COVID kind of gave them 90 days. And my buyer said, that's fine. Hopefully, you know, when you get into those situations, the sellers or people may want to help their tenants find another place.
I help tenants. Whether I'm on the seller or buyer side, I'm always out there trying to help.
Well, and this is how crazy it is. We had the buyer, we reached a contract, but he couldn't move in for 90 days because of a tenant. The sellers had another place come open for a little bit, so they're letting the buyer move into the place temporarily until they get the tenant out of the other.
That's brilliant. That's right. And you know, during the COVID, this is what we have to do. We need to be compassionate and patient with all parties. We cannot get frustrated. It's going to be bumpy, but creative things like that, that is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Everybody was said, that'll work, you know, and so they did, and that's what we're doing. But just to show you, Alice, in terms of that what's out there, if you were looking up to $250,000 in Jackson County during the month of July, last month, 83% of those listings went pending in the first 30 days at that price range. Okay, 83% of them. If you were looking between $250,000 and $350,000 last month, 80% of those listings went pending in the first 30 days. Both those shortages, there's less than a month's supply of inventory up to $350,000. So you can see how the challenging, as Alice is telling you, the challenge of finding those right places and how prepared you have to be. If you go above that, remember back in June, Alice, we noticed a change in pricing?
Yep, I do.
Did you remember that? All of a sudden, above 350,000 was just it was over half the market each week.
Yeah.
That's continued. So almost 65% of the July inventory in that price range between 350 and 500,000 went pending, and 64% went pending in 30 days. There's a 1 month supply now in that price category, which seems to be the most popular price category right now in our region, 350 to 500,000. I wouldn't have thought of that.
So a lot of this is because the people that are moving from bigger cities think that our prices are really low. The locals, not so much. But there's an interesting trend nationwide, and I want everybody to watch this over the next 6 months, that the prices are going down in the big cities. New York is going down. Downtown LA is going down. We're starting to see kind of a flattening out, and I, you know how I love making predictions. I'm going to make another one. I predict that in the next couple of years, it's going to be flat. Like there's not going to be as much difference between the prices in Southern Oregon as somewhere else. It's not going to be about location because people can take their jobs with them now. Klamath Falls prices are going up, and that's been a weaker, less popular market. I am not being critical. I'm just being market factual. And those prices are going up because people here down in the valley in Jackson County can take their job up there. They can have lower taxes, lower cost of living, in some cases a higher quality of life.
Well, and you're right. Just to tell you, I have 3 clients all looking at the Klamath area, meeting them there this week. So that's exactly what's happening there, Alice. You're really right. More affordability. Where do you go? I just wanted to mention the luxury market because, remember a couple of weeks ago, there was like 6 or 7 closings of $1 million plus properties. Remember that?
Yes.
It really contributed to the July sales that all of a sudden just really spiked up. And so just the difference, though, there's only 10%. So 1 out of every 10 of those properties did go pending during the month of July. So there's still about a 10-month supply in the luxury market here. So
but that's down from like 2 or 3 years of supply.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It was way higher. So it has moved, but not moving as much as maybe it was a couple of weeks ago. But that might be a blip. It might be an aberration, but we'll find out. The luxury market, there's more movement, and we've spent a long time in it, and it may be because of all the reasons that you just said.
So this is just so much to talk about. Pete and I are going to be right back with a word from one of our very appreciative, we appreciate our sponsors. So a word from our sponsor, don't touch that dial. This is the best education you're going to get all week. Pete and Alice will be right back. Welcome back, Southern Oregon, to the Real Estate Show, the one and only weekly radio show talking about all things real estate. I am Alice Lema. I am here with my partner in crime, Pete Belcastro. We're both brokers at John L. Scott here in Southern Oregon, and we're having a very lively discussion about what is and isn't happening in the world of real estate. And we're not only talking about locally, we're talking about nationally, because our national market does affect our local situation. So Pete, we were just talking about Klamath Falls and what's going on up there, and you were saying you've actually got quite a lot of new clients up there all of a sudden. Is that correct?
I do, and they vary. They're moving into the area. I think they around and affordability. I think you were the one who brought it up to me. I remember we were talking about the Klamath area. You can get on a 1/4 acre lot, right? A 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,900 square foot house for around $250,000. Okay.
Isn't that something? Right.
And you cannot do that here in Jackson County or Josephine County. So the Klamath market has always kind of lagged behind here, but again, it's more affordable. There's not a lot of listings, but it's a town and it's an area that it's got some beautiful places like we all find. So yeah, I'm excited about it, and we'll see what happens. Ranches, there's great places around there. I've got a question for you here as we go over. We talk about buyers, we talk about selling kind of in the last segment. What about buyers right now, Alice, in terms of the interest rates? I look, last week at our John L. Scott office meeting, we come in and we hear all this information. They're really coming in at 2.75%, some of these. And if you're in a USDA loan, those things have dropped into 2.62 right now for a 30-year.
Well, and that is even without being a veteran. If you're a veteran, it's even lower, and you do not have mortgage insurance. And I believe veterans' credit score can be lower.
Yes, they can. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, a veteran right now, it's a remarkable thing. But even for USDA loans, which cover most of what Josephine County, all of Klamath County, a lot of Jackson County as well, we don't talk about those loans much, Alice, a lot. They are 0% down payment on those loans. They're income qualified. But for many people, that may be an option, especially with the interest rate that is there. You do many veterans out there. I mean, there's lots of veterans and lots of great loans. I learned one thing. Did you know that first-time homebuyer program? I mean, you work with that. You work with first-time buyers, don't you?
Well, I do, but I don't want people to be confused. There really is not a first time homebuyer program unless you're going to go. You're talking about the thing through Access.
Well, I was just saying,
You're
just
talking
first,
about the grants.
right.
I'm
Well,
sorry, what?
I was getting to there. Yeah, we're eventually really going to go there.
Okay, sorry, folks. We're still working remotely and we're on Zoom. And when we both get excited and start talking, we can't hear each other. So you go first.
Well, well, the interest for people right now are at this rate that you need to get pre-qualified. You need to get ready. You need to be able to have it to go to make any kind of an offer, and that's where we really want to advise. I think both us, all of our buyers, is get that done first, because you're going to go out there, you're going to lose something. We don't want people to lose their place.
So you're just talking about in general, people need to be pre-qualified before they go shopping for a house.
Well, yes, especially in this market with the interest rates there. But how have we never said, we've never seen such rates this way. And so it may be a limited time. I think you made your prediction. You've been saying we're going to see more listings coming here in this next few months. And I'm going to say that same thing as far as interest rates are not going to raise, at least through the election. I don't think they're going to raise a bit. So it gives that opportunity continue for people to make those choices in their.
Yeah, our Federal Reserve Bank, this makes me so nervous, Pete, because I got to tell you, if we get a vaccine or some like feel good moment in the economy, then the Fed can do whatever they want. So I want to caution people, do not plan your life around the Federal Reserve rates being one way or the other in the next 90, 120, 6 months, whatever. Don't plan your life about that. If you're in a position to buy something now and you won't be able to buy something if the rates go up, then do not wait. Go out there and arm wrestle people for the house you want. And if you're selling, the thing about the low rates, it means the sellers have more buyers to choose from. And a lot of these buyers will let the seller wait months and months to find another house. So this idea that I don't want to sell my house because I can't find another one is kind of bogus right now, because there's a zillion buyers that will let you have your way until you can find something that you like. But that's going to go away if the interest rates change. So this idea that the interest rate is only helping the buyers is kind of false, because it's really actually helping fuel the sellers' life changes as well.
Because it's driving people to the sellers. Exactly.
Well, and and the sellers have a little more negotiating power on the idea that they may not have a house picked out yet.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I did learn this week was I was with a client, and they're living in a double wide manufactured home in a park. It's a family, okay, and we were in with a lender, and I did learn that you qualify. The state of Oregon does not, if you live in a manufactured home in a park, any kind of a park, 55 or over, or a family park, that does not count if you as a first-time home buyer. Okay, so in other words, if a person wants to get a hold of the Access program or some of the programs for first-time buyers, even some lenders may have some of the different things with that. If you live in a manufactured home, you're a family, you're going to buy your first home, that does not disqualify you from that program. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I want to go back and talk about this program because I think it confuses people. I get phone calls all the time. People want to be in the first-time homebuyer program. There really isn't one unless you're going to do a grant from the food bank people. The food bank people are Access. That's our local food bank, and they help people in lots of ways, including food and housing and stuff like that. They help subsidize. They are a charitable organization. They're a 501(c)(3), and they have a grant program. It takes months and months. You have to have special economic circumstances, and the corona does not necessarily make it so. And you're not going to get your grant unless you go through this rigorous program. So my advice is that you go to a regular lender first and find out what your situation is. Because with the low interest rates, you're probably better off and you can get qualified sooner than by going through the grant program. Because I've had people take a year to go through the grant program. Quite frankly, our world is likely to be completely different tomorrow, much less a year from now. So
I would say I agree with your assessment of the program, and it's but there is a first time home buyer program. It is with Access. The Rogue Valley Association of Realtors, one of our
right.
here, supports that program. But I just said that, and you're right. You have to plan it. You can't just walk in and say I'm going to do this in 30 days like you would do a loan. But Alice, I just finished one with some first time buyers, and they ended up, and I can say this because it's closed now, but they received $31,000 towards the purchase of this home through the grant program,
which is very unusual. Rarely happens. It's more like 9,000, but still, it's a lot of money.
Well, but do you remember a few years ago, the city of Medford put on a tax on new construction? Do you remember that?
Yep.
Remember that?
Yep. We all thought it was going to be the end of the world.
From the home builders went apoplectic over things like that, but they passed that. And that program is now with Access. What that does, it provides up to $15,000 for a first-time home buyer to purchase a new home within the city of Medford. That's there, but it takes, again, patience. You got to have an agent that knows what they're doing. But if you're a program and you're willing to do it, it can help you. And these people achieved their dream. It was one of the most exciting moments of my real estate career. We're all crying in the room when they they happened. Because, they got 4 kids and things like this. It was very emotional. So it's an option, but you got to plan.
It is an option for certain income level people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anyway, it's there. I think those are exciting things. It just, because we talked about creating wealth, with your purchase of your real estate versus renting. And with interest rates so low right now versus renting versus buying, my goodness. I got a client, they're spending $1,680 a month on rent, and we can purchase a new home for under $1,500.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And going back to that program, I don't want to sound critical because it's a fantastic program, but it's just, I get so many phone calls asking about and people just don't understand what it is, and they don't qualify because they have high paying jobs and blah, blah, blah. So we just wanted it to be clear, but those moments when those Access grants can be awarded are just, like you said, tear jerking, wonderful.
I have Denise Lupton, who was on our show actually years ago, used to work at Remax here in town. She runs that program, Alice, and we're going to have her on actually maybe in the next month or so to explain it a little bit more to people to kind of better understanding. I thought I knew about it. I didn't know squat until I actually sat through the process with them, and now I understand it a lot better. So she's going to be here in the next few weeks or so, maybe the next month, to chat with us. I think it's worth it for folks to know it.
Yes, it can help some people. And in the meantime, if you're a tenant, if you're a renter, like Pete was saying, you're probably in the rare position of having a smaller monthly housing expense if you buy a house. And because the rates are low, you can probably qualify to buy something right now because our prices are not that bad. Even though they've gone up a little bit, the ratio between what it takes to qualify for a home versus what the market prices are right now is still really a good ratio. So if you're a tenant, please go talk to a lender or call an agent, call us, call somebody. and just like the matter of 3 to 5 days, we can find out what your situation actually is.
Yeah, it just improves your financial situation so much. Well worth the time to do it. I want to also, have you ever kind of thing in well test in what comes out of a well report? We're seeing elevated levels in reports I'm hearing from well testing about arsenic and boron and different chemicals. Have you heard any of that, or what?
You were cutting out on a lot of that. Can you start the first part again?
I was talking about that. One of the interesting issues that I felt this week that I went through was regarding well testing, water testing, from wells.
Right.
and elevated levels of arsenic or boron or different, E. coli that you're finding coming out of the wells. We're seeing an increase in that in our area, and especially in a dry year where
Right,
wells
exactly.
are really rolling low. So just people need to be aware of those things. But I've learned there's so many ways you can mitigate that with filtering and all sorts of things, because the first reaction when the test comes out and the results come out, what's the first thing you think buyers do, Alice? They freak.
Well, it depends on where they're from. If you're from Southern Oregon, we kind of know what's dangerous and what isn't. but but if you're from somewhere else, it could be like a jaw-dropping moment. And we're going to talk more about that because we've got a break coming up, and we do appreciate our sponsors. So please listen to them because they are what keeps our show going. But Pete and Alice are going to be back here, so do not touch that dial because we're going to be talking about what happens when your inspection and test results come back and your stomach drops. So don't touch that dial. Well, welcome back, folks, to the Real Estate Show. I'm Alice Lema here with Pete Belcastro. We're both brokers at John L. Scott, Southern Oregon, and we are having an interesting conversation today about the market ups and downs, and also what happens when your test results come back and you don't like them. And one of the things Pete was just bringing up was because of the dry years, some of our wells are testing higher contamination. Is that right, Pete?
Well, there are. We're in a really a drought year right now, and you're seeing what happens in certain areas of all the counties. Certain ways dry, people for water. This is where issues of holding tanks really come into play, Alice, in some properties, as you know. So we're seeing that, and as a result of some of the wells, this happened. We're seeing just elevated levels of arsenic or coli or different chemicals that generally maybe we don't see. But just remember, when you take this, what happened in my particular case was the report came back and it was elevated this or that, and of course the buyer's reaction is to, oh my goodness, we can't do this. We got to turn. Well, come to when you get drilled down, as you call it. Well, they take the testing comes from the well itself before it goes through any purifiers in the house or water softeners or filters. So in this particular case, the sellers had put filters in the house, reverse osmosis filters, and so the water that came out at the other end was fine. So I just caution people that don't freak at first, but let's take a very sophisticated look at what it is and what's happening, because sellers many times have already noticed these things. They just don't bring them up to you, and when you're buying the property, it was never brought up at all until the inspection was done. You see?
Well, and also country people, because I'm a country person, I live in town now, but we're a little more thick-skinned about stuff. And if you've never owned a real property before, you might misunderstand our lack of reaction to be something negative, and it's really not. It's just like, well, it's a well or it's a septic or it's a fence or whatever. But just to backtrack a little bit, are you saying that they did the contamination test from the wellhead instead of after the filter, and so the test results came back high when they're actually not high in the house? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. They take the well sample, the water samples, whether it's a top 35 or it's the mandatory test that you do, those samples come from the wellhead before it goes into the house. So just keep in mind, because many times there's filters there, but people don't talk about them. So just, and sometimes because deals can go sideways with that kind of thing. You are such a proponent, and I told you this week was really
You're
funny.
taking the words out of my mouth. I know what you're going to say. Pre-inspection, right?
And
then there's no problems.
This was the first time a sewer scope done for a client that I've never done, but you always you say that's important, and so we've done some of those things pre-inspection. I still don't know why a seller today, and this is just me listening to you now over the years. I don't know why I'm going to sell my house, why I would not have a pre-home inspection done to give to the buyers before I even put it on the market. I just think that's really a very smart thing for a seller to do, Alice. I know you propose that and want that all the time, and I really agree with you on that. Especially in this market today, I think buyers deserve to have that done for them. I mean, the reason sellers are getting almost 100% of their list price.
Well, and also it's a safety net for the seller. You know, I have a transaction right now that is going to terminate because the well flow, although it's adequate for the lender and it's adequate if you run the numbers for the household, they don't feel comfortable. They're actually going to switch to a different zip code that's a little bit wetter. And so, but this could all have been prevented, and this poor seller, you know, it's my buyer, but this poor seller could have avoided all this by doing a $500 battery of tests from the beginning and giving it to the buyers online. And you know what? My people might have still wrote an offer, but because it came as a surprise to them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a dry year. And they're locals, so they're more thick-skinned than somebody from, like, I don't know, San Jose or LA, but you know, it just could have all been avoided. And this seller is going to have to go back on the market now. And nobody's going to think that this well report is bad, because it's really not. It's just how my people felt about it.
Yeah. And those inspections, as you talk about them, what happens if the seller gives it, this is the home inspection, the seller remains in charge of that sale during the process. If the seller abridges that and lets the buyer then do all the inspections, and the buyer has more say in that transaction. So again, it just depends on what you feel comfortable with, but I agree with you now. I think it's really important that sellers take that step and do those things. You have a well, I mean, especially in larger properties, $1 million properties, luxury properties, that stuff should be there for these buyers. And you know, the well test, the flows and the septic reports and things, that should all be done in advance. Give yourself a break. If you want the full price, have that stuff out there. Don't let the buyer take over that if you're a seller.
Well, and one of the things we're not talking about in the low inventory is the back on market rate is actually really high. And so in some neighborhoods, it's as much as 30 and 50%. So I don't want people going away from this broadcast thinking it's totally large and in charge with the sellers, because this is what I keep saying, is that our inventory is going up, the back on markets are going up. And as a seller, you can really keep your deal together if you've done your tests up front, even if you're in town, and give them to the buyer, and then let them do another one if they want, if that makes them feel good. But this idea that it costs a buyer has to pay $400 to write an offer, that's really what you're saying. And if you're out in the country, it's more like $1,800. So you wonder why nobody's writing offers, or they're bailing. It's because they don't want to spend any more money, and you could have prevented this as a seller. And I'm sorry, no, I'm on a rant. But I'm sad for my transaction, but I'm sad for everybody right now in this. The world is hard enough. Let's keep our deals together.
Well, I never you started talking about this. I didn't kind of, Alice, you really need to do that, but I really become a convert to that. And so I do agree with you there too. I know we're back in time, in the MLS stats come out next week, Alice, and next week we'll be able to you know, share them with you, with folks, the full thing. Market, the this being part of our market, and also remains critical. Alice says we're going to have more by Labor Day. I can't wait. I hope you're right.
Well, that's what I think, but this is just my opinion.
Well, I know, and I hope you're right there, because we do need them, because there are some wonderful buyers out there, and we'll want to come into our communities, and people need to move, as you say, and so now's a great time to do it with the rates the way they are. Hey, as we go out of here, this is, again, we've never been able to say this, Alice, as far as buying and selling in the same breath. It is a unique opportunity we may never see again. So take advantage of it if the situation fits you, and get an agent to help you and get through it, and you'll be successful and your life changes. That's what it's about, right?
And you want a realtor. You want somebody who is part of the MLS. You want somebody who is licensed and bonded. We would love it if you would call us, but we just want you to work with an agent. Do not go things alone right now. Do not think you can do this on your own. And I am a former for sale by owner myself, and I'm a big fan of that business model. But right now, I'm telling you, you want a licensed agent. You want a realtor. You want somebody who's out there every single day, because they're the ones that are going to get you through this the best.
Absolutely. I can't agree more. For sale by owners make up a tiny, tiny part of the market. Remember.
Well, they're not staying on top of the COVID protocols either. So, and no offense to my for sale by owner friends. I'm just saying right now, you're better off with a realtor.
I think so. Well, hey, you have a great week. I can't wait till we talk next week and see what happens this next week.
Right. Stay tuned. This broadcast will be repeating tomorrow, 6 p.m. We're out of time. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Southern Oregon. Go make it a great day and enjoy the beautiful outdoors. Alice, Lema, Pete Belcastro saying bye.